Well, welcome viewers to the live broadcast of the fifth Karkloof 100 miler and 50 miler. My name's Cuan. I'm joined here by Linda. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm very excited to be here. There's such atmosphere, such vibe. The runners are getting ready. They take off in an hour. They're lining up at the start line in about 45 minutes. And yeah, the vibe here is great.
Yeah, it's a beautiful setting here where we are at the Karkloof Country Club. As you mentioned, the 100 miler is going to be going off at 8 o'clock this evening, and the runners are going to be going through the night. Linda, you've done a couple 100 milers before. Just give us a little bit of how it feels to go through the night, and basically the runners will be on their own, only with a headlamp to guide them through.
Yeah, Kieran, as you know, the first half of this race, the runners will be without any paces. They're only allowed to pick up paces on their return journey. So yeah, they will be on their own. Of course, it'll take a while for the races for the participants to spread out, for the race to spread out. But for the significant part of the night, they will ultimately be on their own. The fact that the night section is early on is to their advantage. The legs are fresh, the brain is fresh. They're not yet fatigued. They're not yet tired. And it'll be quite a different story for those runners who are still in the race tomorrow night. That's a different ballgame entirely.
Yes, because that's a phenomenal statistic. I mean, I've done many broadcasts before with SABC Sport of the Comrades Marathon. You're a legend in trail running. I'm very new to the whole trail running scene, but the bug is catching. I don't know if I'll be available to commentate next year because I might be running. Definitely not the 100 miler, maybe the 50 miler, but I'll have to see.
Never say never, Kieran.
Yeah, never say never. But I just found it fascinating how we're starting tonight at 8 o'clock. And the last runners will be coming through on Sunday morning.
Yes. Yeah, those runners will have a very tough last 12 hours to their run, because it's exactly as you said, they'll be running through the dark hours. And the hardest part of running through the night is the several hours before dawn. The body clock, the natural body clock, wants to sleep. That's our pattern. And we're instead pushing it on. And we're not only doing that, but we're forcing food down. And the digestive system doesn't want food. Also in the second half of a 100 miler, or from about the 100K onwards, the digestive system really isn't interested in taking in more food. It's a tough time. And you add to that the night, the system just wants to shut down. So they've really got to dig deep and push on. But we're even not at that point yet. We can discuss that tomorrow, because I must say, at the moment tonight, they will be fresh, they'll be adrenaline pumped, and they'll be eager. I think the big challenge when they start off tonight is not to go out too fast.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, when you're running a marathon, a distance of 42.2 kilometers, they always have that infamous wall where runners hit it at the 20-mile mark, which will be 32 kilometers. So on a 100 miler, Linda, where exactly does that wall catch the runners? Or is there a wall at all?
You know, the wall is very much, I believe, about a drop in blood sugar. So you never want the wall. You never want the wall anyway. But if you manage your eating carefully and manage your strategy on a 100 miler, you shouldn't ever hit the wall. That's not to say, though, that you won't have energy dips. Of course you will, and you'll go through energy highs and a lot of energy lows. But if you fuel yourself consistently and keep to a fueling strategy through a 100 miler, remember that pace is a lot slower than on a marathon, a lot slower. And if you fuel correctly, you should be able to sustain ideally an energy constant to some extent.
No,
so
definitely.
You shouldn't hit a wall.
No, definitely. And weather, of course, is also going to be vital and play a big role in a race like the Karkloof 100 miler. Where we are this evening, it's a little bit chilly once the sun went down, but the weather forecast for tomorrow calls for around 32 degrees.
Wow.
It's going to be quite tough on the runners.
Yeah, it is. Especially those, especially coming out coming out of winter, as most of us have. Two of the runners, two of the fields are from Zambia. They've had warmer weather than we've had, but yeah, tomorrow's going to be a test.
Interesting day.
Yeah, indeed.
And we've got quite a big field here this evening in the 100 miler. Some race favourites: Andrew Erasmus in the men's
Yes.
race, Joe Kepler in the women's race,
Yes.
who you have a lot of insider information
Yes,
for.
yes, I do.
If you were a betting woman, who would you put your money on in the 100 miler?
Well, in the men, yes, certainly Andrew is a contender. Martin Malherbe is a contender. There are quite a few others that I need to just check my notes on. And in the women's side, it's going to be an interesting race because yes, certainly Jo, this is her second Karkloof. She did 2019, and she came forth. She was new to running then. Jo's a natural runner, a strong runner. She's trained. She's trained very well, and she's very headstrong. Trish Eckstein is going to be Jo's main competition, and it's going to be very interesting to watch. Now, Trish is a very experienced athlete, and she
recently set a world record for half marathons.
She has that under the belt. She did 100 consecutive days. This is last year. 100 consecutive days of half marathons and set a world record.
That's phenomenal.
It's a very different kind of endurance, that. Trish has a lot of experience, but this is her first 100 miler.
Yeah.
So Jo came second in Ultra Trail Drakensberg in April, and proved her worth there. Proved that there's a lot to Jo, but there's a lot to Trish as well, and I think they're going to really battle it out tomorrow. It's going to be good.
And with Jo, you mentioned she is quite a new runner to the sport. If I'm not mistaken, she's been running for about 2.5 years, especially in the trails. But she's also becoming an accomplished road runner. I remember earlier this year, I was part of the broadcast of the Nedbank 50 kilometer, where the athletes went for a world record attempt, and Jo ran a 350 there, which is not a bad time at all for road running.
Yes.
So bringing that speed into the trail, where you did mention it's not necessarily about the speed, but it will help a lot.
It will. I do worry, and I can say this personally. I'm her coach, so I do worry that Jo might be tempted to go out a little bit too fast. Caught up the adrenaline, the excitement, feeling good. I hope that she intentionally holds back a bit and reins herself in. Let's just hope that she has a stronger second half than first.
No, definitely. Yeah, it's going to be some exciting racing tonight. Of course, the 100 miler starting at 8 o'clock. But then we also have the 50 miler tomorrow, and a host of big names there. Prodigal Kumalo, he's a double Comrades Marathon gold medalist. And then an exciting battle we might see tomorrow in the ladies' race. Yolandi McLean, multiple Comrades Marathon gold medalist, up against the 2018 Comrades champion Anne Ashworth, who's in her own right making a name for herself in the trail running. Earlier this year, she did the Ultra Trail Drakensberg, and she took the title there in the 100 kilometer.
Yeah.
So quite interesting to see how they do tomorrow.
Absolutely. Am I right that Yolandi has 8 gold medals?
8 Comrades gold medals from 9 starts.
Wow.
And I remember when she did her first Comrades, if I'm not mistaken, it was back in 2003. She was only about 25 years old or so, and I think she did 2 or 3 in a row, and then she had a gap of over 2 years. Then came back to Comrades and picked up a whole host of Comrades golds again. So very interesting.
Why did she take the gap?
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think she did take a step away from the sport. She did a few mountain biking events and the likes, but once the running bug bites, it's hard to stay away from it.
Right.
Yeah. But we're going to cut to the race briefing shortly, where the race organizer, Andrew Booth, is going to be briefing the athletes tonight.
Pirates road running. Right, can I have your attention, please, especially runners, especially 100-mile runners. It's the final briefing now. You really like to. Yeah, things like don't know what is the weather going to do, all of that. How's it going to affect the race? So have we made any final little changes? Has the course changed? All those little pieces. And if you listen to the final briefing here, it could just help you out there on course. You're going to need all sorts of help out there on course. And this race, I think, stretches into that more than any other ultra trail race in the country, where you've got crews, you've got support. There's all sorts of people who are going to help get you to that finish line.
Next lesson.
So let me start with details around what I think the weather might do. Some people in my crew think I can predict the weather. And I thought it was still because you need to mute quite a lot of cold weather. I mean, I'm wearing a jacket. It's all a good sign. The evenings are cooling off, and I think that's a very important factor around this race.
And how do we?
Why do we run it? Why do we start it at nighttime? Well, one of the biggest reasons we started at nighttime is you do get the cool evening running, and I think in the heat tomorrow, there will be moments when you do kind of crave that evening time, and it cools off nice and quickly in the Karkloof. We've had fantastic rain last year and a little bit of early rain this year, which helps the temperature cool off nicely in the evenings. But when it is hot tomorrow, guys, when it is hot, make sure, what did we learn in 2019 when it was really hot, really windy, and a really tough race for many people? Keeping your body temperature down and your hydration up and your energy up it's about that at the end of the day, and there's all sorts of ways you can do that. You often don't feel so well, so eating becomes really tricky, but force it down, keep those hydration levels up. I'm talking to the crews as well, because sometimes it comes to you, down to the pacer, to remind them, come guys, just keep that nutrition going. A lot of people do call a 100-miler an eating competition, and it can very, very easily be easily seen as to why that's the case. So look after yourselves. I feel if you can get through the day, the race is yours. Get to the turning point. That's also my other piece of advice I always throw out here to the 100-milers is, no matter what, get to that turning point, because then you turn, you're on your way back. It's a very definite halfway mark. A lot of other races don't have that, like, boom, you're halfway. You turn, you've got more downhill running on the way back. So use that as your very first piece of motivation. And then you're going to have to find your own piece of motivation, or your crew is going to have to find it for you, to take one more step, to get to the next aid station, to get to the next caravan aid station. What's a caravan aid station? It's something that we've thrown in there in between all of the big aid stations that's just going to cool you down. It's going to take the edge off. You're going to have a little moment with another runner, or with a crew, with part of our crew who are out there for all tonight and all of tomorrow, and your crews as well. But you're going to find something that's going to make you take another step. And then you're going to eventually get back here with 10 miles to go. It's probably the cruelest thing we've ever done in trail running, because you're going to look at that finish line and you're going to go, whew, I don't know, can I actually do this? Some of you will feel like that, but we'll push you out unless it's not safe to do so. And you'll do those final 10 miles. And when you come across that finish line, that 100-mile buckle will be yours. And I'm really looking forward to those very special moments on the finish line tomorrow evening. They really are quite something. All right, guys, so I hope that gets your mindset, the final little preparation there. We have, as I said, done so many little emails and briefings leading up to this, so the details should really be there in your head. You're in for a life-changing experience. It really is something quite phenomenal, running 100 miles. I haven't done it myself for a couple of years, but I have done it, and it really, if it's your first one, like, wow, it really is quite something. If it's not your first one and you've done many, well, then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. You've come back for just a little bit more. So to finish off, I think I've got a few more minutes here, Terence, getting close though. But to finish off, guys, you know, I haven't felt like this at a race since Three Cranes Challenge February 2020, which happened just over there. And I just haven't felt the sense of like people, community, freedom. It's all out here. And thank you so much for coming out and doing it, for being part of this community. So first, big thanks. I'll do them on the finish line, I mean, at the prize giving as well, but not everyone will be there. So first, big thanks to the runners, to the people who are supporting them. I really do appreciate you taking, all of us, our team does really appreciate you taking that step. Second, to the club, it's come on like leaps and bounds, like how's this deck and how's this venue and how's this place we've gathered in. It's really turning out to the relationships growing in its strength and turning out to be a fantastic one, having experienced for the first time a year ago. And we've got to make sure, oh yes, this is probably the most important one, and it's a very big logistic in this race. You'll run through more than 20 different farms, 20 different landowners, and all the people that have come together. There's a lot of dairy farmers, there's Sappi, there's Mbona, there's Benvi. That's just to name the big ones. There's all the little ones as well. And sometimes they're only just a few hundred meters. But to all of those who are here, all those landowners and farmers and community, you know, Howick buzzed today. And even the Howick people said Howick was buzzing today. So, yeah, to them, to feel this all and to come out here and do it, for them to allow us to come and do it, it really is, considering what this province and little town and little valley's gone through in the last 18 months and even 2 months. I think it's going to go through an incredibly special thing in the next 36 hours. So guys, good luck. If you have got any absolutely final questions, I can say the course is incredibly well marked with pink markers and reflector markers. You should be used to following them by now. We'll be checking you in from the back from 7:45. So you will need to walk around the back and you will run straight out there. When you come back in here for your first aid station, you'll need to go through underneath where you started into the aid out the other side. That's very important. And if you're a crew, please crew on either side of the enclosed area. We'll see you just now, guys. I'll keep chatting to you. We'll build up to 8 o'clock, but thanks very much. And a very warm welcome to the 5th running of the Karkloof 100 miler.
Well, that was the one of the event organizers, Andrew Booth, just doing the pre-race briefing. And what I found fascinating, Linda, about that, it's such a mammoth task hosting an event like the Karkloof 100 miler. He mentioned that the race course goes over 20 different farms, so a whole community coming together to make this event a success.
Yeah, that's lovely. You know, this is a very it's a rural area. Howick needs this, especially after lockdown, like many small towns in South Africa. And this is a vibrant community, a vibrant race, and I think it's going to be great to help uplift the community.
Definitely, and we can see the excitement in the air here with the runners. Of course, you mentioned lockdown, COVID.
Yeah.
We living amongst the pandemic. We've seen a lot of events being cancelled or postponed. The recent Tokyo Olympics, which was postponed by a whole year. Two Oceans Comrades, we've lost 2 years worth of it. So the athletes here, a lot of the top runners themselves, a point to prove tonight to their sponsors, to everyone who's stuck by them, but everyone just wants to get out there and run. And hopefully this is the start of some normality coming back into our lives.
Well, let's hope so. And Cuan, you know a lot of the road runners here, many of them excellent ultra distance runners. Tell me a bit about some of the 100 milers who are dabbling in trail.
Yeah, so there's some interesting athletes here. I think the one that sticks out to me is Admire Musompambwa. He's a Zimbabwean athlete who bases himself in Johannesburg. He's one of the ASICS front runners. He's sponsored by a host of brands, but not only does he run well, he promotes all his sponsors really well. He's got a very active following on the social media. And one of the interesting things that I think I mentioned to you earlier was when we were going through the list of the athletes, there's so many athletes here who have done multiple 100 milers, but when you ask them what their marathon PB is, they say they don't have one. It's like they just stepped over all the stepping stones leading up to a 100 miler and jumped straight into it.
Yes.
But on the process of marathon PBs, Admire is a 2:28 marathon runner, so he's definitely one of the fastest in the field that we're going to see this evening.
Oh, fantastic.
But like you said, 100 miles is a very long way. It's very different to a marathon. You'll know a bit more about the course, but also the more technical the event, the quicker the more experienced guys can get away from a fast runner like Admire. But on the open stretch and the open roads, that's someone that you have to look out for.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I must say, a course like this will play to the strengths of the less technical runner. And, with there being no comrades last year and no comrades this year, a lot of road runners are desperately missing their racing, as you say. And a race like Karkloof allows road runners to almost license to run Jeep track. This is a less technical 100 miler. It's got a lot of Jeep track. It's got technical as well, but the technical, it's not difficult technical. So it's going to be very interesting seeing how those runners fare against the Andrew Erasmuses, the Martin Malherds, etc.
And I think pacing is going to be one of the big factors to take into, because the road runners kind of only know one pace, and that's fast.
Yes.
So if they go out quickly, 100 miles is a long way. It's not a 42-kilometer marathon. It's not even comrades, and comrades in itself is a long race. So I think, as you mentioned, the Andrew Erasmus, I was looking down at his info, and his marathon PB is 2:52. So it's a good over 20 minutes slower than Admire, but that doesn't count for anything when it's 100 miles that the athletes have to run.
Absolutely.
See beautiful shots there of the Karkloof 100 banner. That's where the athletes will be starting and finishing. And very interesting, the trophy there, Linda. It's called the People's Trophy. So, yes, we have a winner at the end of the day, the first person to cross the line. But the interesting thing with Karkloof is that every finisher of the 100 miler, their name goes onto that trophy. So everyone is a winner.
It's lovely that, and I understand, speaking with the organisers, that this trophy is going to, in effect, have more and more names on it as the years go by.
Yeah, it's an amazing initiative that Karkloof have done, and we actually have a video on the history of the trophy, which we can cut to shortly.
How's it, everyone, and welcome to the Karkloof Trail Series. We're here in the Karkloof Valley at the Karkloof Country Club, and I'm super excited and proud to announce our latest innovation. As you know, we've got the Karkloof 100 miler happening on the 24th of September, and this year we are announcing that we will have a floating trophy for the event. But it's a floating trophy with a difference. It's called the People's Trophy, and we want to acknowledge and celebrate every single finisher who has completed the 100 miler over the last 4 years. So you will see on this trophy there are 4 bands, and every single finisher, all 238 finishers, names have been engraved on there. Going forward into the future, this trophy is just going to grow and grow and grow as more of you finish our iconic race.
So a little bit of history there of the People's Trophy. Very, very nice feature that the organisers, Jack and Andrew, have got into this. As we hear Impi being blasted over the speakers, this reminds me of the Comrade start line. I've done 3 Comrades myself, and it's always these kind of songs that really set the mood for the athletes as they're about to take on one epic journey.
huge. The goosebumps are starting.
So no aid sessions.
I think the race organisers are going to shortly talk about the important compulsory gear. And we can just run through the compulsory gear for the viewers. It's
Well, welcome back to all the viewers at the Karkloof 100 miler. We really apologise for the break.
Back yourself. We'll see. Maybe I can. I don't know. I'll see if my lungs can take it. Back yourself.
Be brave.
Yeah.
Techies.
Right. I'm going to fuck up my whole race plan. I'm going to miss my second.
Do what you're comfortable with, but back yourself.
Can you hear me? Can we go? Okay. Alright guys, Justin,
No,
how you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling lekker.
Are you feeling lekker?
Oh, it's a cool vibe.
Yeah?
Looking good.
Good stuff, man. Listen, let's talk about the Amap challenge. You're in there, there's 5 of you running. That must be a big goal, eh?
Yeah, I think definitely, yeah. Get over the line and get that event title. I think it's been a bucket list thing for me.
So I think you'll probably be able to get a record down there as well. Put a time
Yeah,
on.
I think I will think about that a bit later in the race, but yeah, for now, getting over the line.
Okay, cool. And just quickly, your race strategy. What are your plans? What are you thinking? Obviously, a bit of heat around tomorrow. What are you taking into consideration here?
Yeah, I think to hydrate well overnight.
Yeah.
So when you hit the day, you're on top, and just focus on nutrition as well.
Okay.
And then to possibly target a sub 24 hour would be great.
Okay.
And
I think it's been very modest, eh? So 24 hours is very, very modest. But,
we'll give it our best shot.
okay. And who else are you looking out for on the course? Who are you going to be racing against? Any people that you've identified?
I think there's so many guys out there that can run. Great runners out there. So maybe it's, you never know, it's 100 miles. Anything can happen.
We'll see you out there. Thanks, dude. Take it easy, yeah? Cool, huh? Listen, I've also got Andrew Erasmus here, so if you guys want to stay live, let me just get him over there. Andrew, come and join us here. Hello, bro. How are you?
Very good.
Yeah, very good, yeah? Can we keep on rolling, yeah? Can we go? Okay, cool. Guys? Yeah, cool. We got you on the live feed. It's like UTMB style here. How are you feeling? We got 20 minutes left, huh? What's the race strategy? What's happening out there? No one else is listening, so it's okay. They're not going to listen to you. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. What number is this now, Parker? Number 3. You feel on board, huh? Okay. So 4th start, huh? 4th start, bit finish?
2 second place.
2 second places, huh? Okay. Who have you got to beat to get up to the top of the podium?
Everyone.
Everyone, huh?
Yeah.
All 101 runners, huh?
Yeah, everyone's got to be
Any names out there that you think you might keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's even hard to start. Martin, there's a couple of good guys out there. So
there's a lot of podium runners in that this year.
Yeah,
Martin,
Zwaki. Yeah, always got to look out for Zwaki.
Lovely, yeah?
Yeah, so no, excited. Let's see what the guys have got, and everyone run their own race.
And what's on your playlist?
I don't actually have a playlist.
Don't you?
I'm just going to enjoy being out there, bro.
Lots of jackals out there, huh?
Yeah. So
All right,
at
cool.
least I'll be listening for them. Otherwise, might get taken out.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, sure.
We'll see you soon, huh? We'll see you out on the course, huh?
Cool,
Thanks for
thank
joining
you.
us, huh? Cool. Thanks, guys. We're in pretty good shape.
an excellent Martin Malher, who's come forth.
Welcome back to the live pictures of the 2021 Karkloof Trail Series. We're here live for the 100 miler. Again, to the viewers at home, we really apologize for the break in transmission. As we mentioned, Linda, we are literally out here in the middle of nowhere in the bushes, and unfortunately with that comes a very weak Wi-Fi signal. We're relying on the cell phone towers around here, which there aren't many, but the technical producers, Byron and his team, have really been working hard behind the scenes, and hopefully they would have fixed that issue for now. But Linda, it was an amazing goosebump feeling of the start that we watched there as the athletes set off from the Karkloof Country Club just after 8 o'clock this evening.
Absolutely. That was 19 minutes ago. The runners are well into their second and third kilometers, some into their fourth kilometers. They're heading out on a 15k loop before they then back here at the country club, and then setting off into the night. Where they go now is down towards the Karkloof Falls, where they will then loop back to here. So temperatures are dropping, Cuan. I think we're now down to about an easy 14 degrees. It's not going to get terribly cold here tonight by cold standards, but the runners, it'll be fresh for the runners, and cold for us here at the country club. But there's no rain due, and conditions will be dry before the heat sets in tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I'm going to admit that I did make a little quick run to the tent while we were on that break, and I do have a little sleeping bag on my legs right now, so I'm a little bit warmer, and as you mentioned, the temperature's definitely dipping. But for the runners out there, once they're running, the body starts getting warmer. They won't feel it as much as we are here sitting under the marquee.
Yes. Yeah, the compulsory kit for this race is not a long checklist. Is always the mandatory water. In this race, it's carrying capacity for one litre. You do have to carry a waterproof, although we're not expecting any rain. Obviously, the mandatory medical kit, your headlamp, of course, and spare batteries.
Cell phone as well. Back again to the viewers. We apologize again for that break in transmission. The internet signal here is quite bad where we are out here in the middle of nowhere, literally in Karkloof. But Linda, just before the break in transmission there, we were discussing the necessities or compulsory items that some of the athletes have to take on a race like the Karkloof 100 mile. Quite a list of things.
It is quite a list, although it's a lot shorter list than many other 100-miler trail 100-milers. It's obviously compulsory water capacity of, in this case, 1 litre. It's a waterproof, although we're not expecting any rain, but it's an important mandatory item. It's the emergency foil blanket. That's terribly important. You know, if something happens to you, if you sprain an ankle, the body temperature will drop as soon as you're stationary, as soon as you slow down, and if that happens in the early hours of the morning and you're stationary, you need to wrap up warm while you wait for help. Obviously, a fully charged cell phone for contactability, and food for energy, obviously.
Yeah, so where we are here at the start and finish venue,
and a headlamp.
Yeah, and the headlamp, yes. Very important, especially through the night.
Yes.
But where we are here at Karkloof Country Club, the athletes will be making their first loop through here, literally running straight past us, behind us here. That'll be 10 miles into the race, 16 kilometers for the norm in South Africa. So that will be their first first aid station.
Yes.
There's 5 along the way, out and back, so they'll have 10 in total.
Yes, yes, indeed. And then in between those are caravan, more mobile aid stations, less formal ones, with less food. They'll have water and Coke at those. So there are plenty of. There's plenty of aid stations along the way. So from here, they'll go through to Rockwood, which is the second aid station, and effectively the 8th aid station on their return journey tomorrow.
Yeah, and then after Rockwood, as we see the graphic there, the athletes will make their way through to Bushwillow, Mbona Gate, and then Benvie Gardens. I've seen some video footage of that, and beautiful scenery there. It looks like a beautiful place to run through.
Incredible, and obviously it's the turnaround point where they pick up their pacers, those who are having pacers, and the pacers do the return journey with them.
Yeah, and we have a Jock who is the 2020 winner of the Karkloof Classic 100 miler.
Great, Jock. Jock, it's good to see you. I think you must be experiencing quite a bit of FOMO tonight.
Mark, we can't hear it.
Can't hear a thing.
I can't hear him either, but there is volume coming through, so
Well, that was Jock Green, the champion from 2019. And Jock, if you have any advice for the athletes that are out there currently on the course, especially through this first section where no paces are allowed, where they have to basically fend for themselves through the night, what advice would you give to the athletes, and not only the athletes but the supporters who are watching this broadcast and will be out there looking after the athletes?
Byron, we can't hear him. We must apologize to our viewers. We're just having a slight break in transmission. We can't hear Jock, but hopefully our technicians will be solving the problem shortly. It's interesting actually how the temperatures are dropping, Cuan. It's getting rather nippy here at the country club.
We both in sleeping bags here already.
Yes.
And it's very cold, and I'm sure where Jock is in the warmth of wherever he's watching from, it's a lot different. But Jock, you this year not in action in the Karkloof 100 miler. Are you preparing for another event?
Yeah, Trevor, let's just check if you guys can hear me first before I start speaking.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
Jock.
can hear you now, Jock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so the plan was actually to do this about as fast as time across the Harrisburg, which we did a couple of weeks back, and then to use that that preparation for the last 2-3 months, to put that to really good use at Skyrun. Right, that was really my plan. But then because I had to have a surgery a couple of weeks ago, quite a big surgery, so that's put me out now probably like till next year. Need to take a couple of months off. I've been off for 2 weeks already, right, post surgery. So I started my rehab and my physiotherapy yesterday. So I've got like 6 weeks of that before I can start running again.
Speedy recovery there, Jock, and hopefully we'll see you back in action at next year's Karkloof 100 miler.
Yeah, I hope so. There's so many races that are out there, but yeah, Karkloof has always been a favourite of mine, and that sort of course really suits me as well. It's more of a runner's course. It's a fast course, which is something that I really, really enjoy. It plays to my strengths.
We didn't get to hear you earlier on, Jock. For any of the viewers that are watching the event tonight, who will then later be going out onto the route to support their athletes, any advice to them, words of encouragement, or rather not what to say to the athletes during the night section?
Yeah, I think it's probably like the same advice to the spectators, to the supporters. You know, like same to the runners really. I just take it calm. Just be calm. It's a long night. It's a long event. When you see your runners, just calm them down. You know, don't show them your excitement. Runners typically coming into on a station like super, you know, like worked up and amped and whatever. Like just calm them down, make sure that they get something to drink and to eat, wipe them down if they need that. A couple of minutes in a station is really, really worthwhile. But there's loads of running, but just keep your runner calm. You know, that's probably like the best advice. But keep yourself calm first.
Yeah, no, great advice there from Jock Green, the 2020 100-mile winner. Linda, any questions that you have for Jock?
Well, I'd like to know when Jock's coming back to reclaim his title from last year.
Yeah, I think it all depends. Trying to get into Western States, it's really, really hard to get into that race. So this December will be my third year running in a row trying to get into it. And if I don't get into Western States, like really keen to go back to Leadville, you know, I just haven't been able to race internationally the last couple of years. So might need to go back to Karkloof in 2023. Just really want to get back to the state next year.
No, great. Thanks very much, Jock, for joining us on this live broadcast, and hopefully tomorrow we can catch up with again with you and get a bit of an update of where the runners are out on the course and how you seeing the athletes are progressing.
Oh, cool. Thanks so much, Cuan. Thank you, Linda, and enjoy the night. It's going to be a long one.
No, thanks so much, Jock.
Yes, cheers, bye-bye.
Well, that was Jock Green, the 2020 Karkloof Trail Series 100-kilometer winner. A lot of good advice that he had there, Linda, for the supporters who may be watching this broadcast right now, of what to say and what not to say to the athletes out there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I know of many instances where one's loved ones perhaps don't know how to gently push their runners out back into the field. They care too much about them. They want to cosset them. They want to comfort them, and the fact that they're vomiting and dizzy and supposedly not wanting to carry on, they actually just need a gentle push to continue, because there's it's quite hard to explain to a spectator that if that spectator or crew member allows you to stop, you'll regret stopping. You really will. No matter how rotten you feel at the time, you need to push on, because there's nothing worse than unfinished business.
Most definitely, and we saw Andrew Erasmus in an earlier interview. He's done this event 3 times. He's finished second twice. He's got 1 DNF to his name,
Yes.
and that's something a runner really doesn't want. They don't want a DNF next to their name.
DNFs are very haunting. They're terrible, and often, if it's a DNF because of medical reasons or something that you couldn't help, that's a different story. But if it's a DNF because you felt at the time that you couldn't go on, or you just got tired of it and pulled out the race, you'll regret that. You don't want to do that. You've got to prepare for those moments and pick yourself up and push yourself out again and out of that aid station and push on.
No, definitely. We've got just some special thanks to some of the race's supporters. Uncapped, Midland's preferred internet service provider, that are assisting us here today with the broadcast, and our brilliant producer Byron behind the scenes, but doing a phenomenal job here and trying to keep that connection done.
Absolutely. We also have Tailwind, of course, and Bushnell, both really, really important supporters of this race, and without which this race couldn't happen.
Definitely, sponsors a very valuable aspect to an event, especially the magnitude of the Karkloof Trail Series. When you think of the course, Linda, 100 miles, it's 160 kilometers. We heard the race organizer earlier, Jack Davis, saying that the course stretches over 20 different farms along the community in Howick and Karkloof, and that's 20 different farm owners coming together, letting the athletes run through their grounds. It's a huge event.
It is, and Cuan, trying to organizing a race of this magnitude over this distance, as you say, it involves a lot of logistical organization, of preparation, and in advance of any inaugural race, and that in this race's case was 5 years ago. A lot of land permissions to cross land, negotiations often with forestry, permissions. There's a lot of background organizing that goes into races like this, and it's always a huge shout out to organizers who lay these races on.
No, most definitely. But as we talk about that, we have Annelies Scholes who joins us. Welcome, Annelies, to the live broadcast.
Hi, thank you very much for having me.
Annelies, I really hope technology will allow us to hear you well, because there's so much I want to ask you. Obviously, we share a great passion, and you've really excelled in yours. And this race is one of the many that you've excelled in and close to your heart. So tell us how you're feeling tonight. Quite a bit of FOMO, I imagine.
Shane, thank you very much. That's very kind. Yes, no, Karkloof always looking at the people starting gets the butterflies going. I know that they're doing a different route to what I did, but yes, I would love to someday go back to Howick for that 100-miler.
And if you had to just take us through, Annelies, you were the winner back in 2019. Just explain to the viewers how the day went for you. Did you have highs and lows during the race, and what it was like crossing that finish line first?
Yes, with 100-milers, I think if anyone goes through a 100-miler without highs and lows, I have yet to talk to someone like that. So the race obviously starts at night, so you don't really know where you're running. Our race started for me quite fast, but I knew that if I wanted to do well, I need to stick with the front ladies. I was still running with Caroline Hanks. So the first sections was fine. I think Caroline had an injury, so she pulled out. But once I got to the halfway mark, I couldn't find my rhythm. I really struggled that first half. And then when on the way back, it was extremely hot and very windy that year. There was so much dust. And yeah, I definitely had a point where I had a little bit of nausea and couldn't keep anything down. And I have to say, like, I think the last 40 Ks was the best for me. I finally found a rhythm and I felt better. So I was very relieved and happy to actually finish, you know, like to get to a point where you can just finish 100 mile, I think is exactly the same as winning it or finishing last. But if you could just reach that finish point, that in its own is like a win.
Yeah, and then, as you mentioned there, you went through literally 4 seasons of weather through your race, and in a race, Linda, like 100 miles, so many things can happen. You can go from feeling like $1 million to nothing, but then 20 kilometers later, you feel great again.
Absolutely, Annalise, you'll agree with that. The highs and lows that we go through are quite incredible, and it's the important part is the picking yourself up and knowing that the low times won't last. You've got to refuel and push on.
Yep.
It sounds
There's
so easy.
Only one way to get to the end. One step at a time.
Yeah.
And will we be seeing you back at the Karkloof race in the future, Annalise?
Yes, I've just got to tick off a few other 100 milers in South Africa, and then I'll definitely be back.
Annalise, it was good seeing you at one of my local races the other week, Halpe Trail Challenge. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, it was so short. It was too short, but I loved it. It was
in comparison.
It was so much fun. I loved the Cape Town trails.
Yeah.
I want to know, what was the definition of short there?
Annalise, you can answer that. What's short for us?
40 Ks.
It was 40 Ks.
No.
But Annalise, you must admit it's a very technically difficult 40K race.
Yes, it's not your average 40K. I think for me, the hardest was that it wasn't marked. Like, I really struggled to know where I was going. But I really enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. It was nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Annalise, for joining us here on the live broadcast of the 2021 Karkloof Trail Series. And we hope not only to see you back here, defending your title, picking up another win, but hopefully we can chat tomorrow and you can take us through where the leading ladies are at that stage and what your predictions will be.
Shem, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Annalise. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was the 2019 Karkloof 100 miler winner, Annalise Scholz. And I have to laugh at that, Linda. Short, 40 kilometers.
Yeah, indeed. It's short compared to a 100 miler for sure, but it's a good example of how. Well, let's refer to 100 milers. 100 miler can't be compared to another 100 miler. You know,
it's not like the Comrades up and down run.
No,
it's completely different.
You know, they're 100 milers and they're 100 milers. And I think a good example is a good way to look at that is the time comparisons. A Karkloof, for instance, is modeled very much on Western States. The Western States 100 is an iconic, a wonderful iconic 100 miler that's internationally known and revered. And another one that's also American is Hard Rock 100, and therein are two races of the same distance and so very, very different in terms of degree of technicality and degree of difficulty. And it's the finishing times that prove that show that. I have those finishing times at my fingertips, as you can see out there. Or at least I will in a moment.
But as we discuss a little bit of the differences of the course, we've got our first little insert that we'd like to play for you, and that's the Karkloof Falls loop. Well, that was the first little loop that the athletes are currently navigating. And out on the course, we have Thomas that's not only filming some of the event, but running some of it, Linda.
Wow, yes. As you can see, it's not easy it's not easy following a trail at night, I must say. Obviously, it's all... he hasn't caught up with runners yet, I think. I presume he's behind the last runner.
And I just saw him make that little left turn there. Is it obviously the course is very well marked, but surely there have been some instances where an athlete will go the wrong way or take a wrong turn.
Oh, for sure. Navigating at night on specifically on single track that's technical is very difficult. Your headlight shines a beam in front of you. It's like running in a lit tunnel, and with darkness all around. It's great that our viewers can see a little glimpse of what it is like for us runners out there running in the night, because obviously you have no landmarks to go by. And if you're running on a trail or a course that you know very well in the daytime, you take those landmarks around you, the mountains, the trees, the forests, the various landmarks, you take them for granted in the daytime. And in the night, they're obviously not at all visible. So you're reliant on what you see lit up in the beam in front of you. And often, there may be misty conditions, there may be rain, in which case the beam of light just reflects back at you. You're really not lighting up much in front, so it can be really disconcerting. And yes, very easy to lose your way. And of course, to doubt yourself. And these are all some of the challenges that running at night bring.
And I must ask, Linda, running at night, is it a little bit easier in terms of when you're coming through to, let's say there is a very, very long climb? Sure, you're still feeling it when you're running on the climb, but you're not actually seeing it. A lot can help there mentally.
Yes, you're right. You don't see the frightening haul up a mountain ahead of you. Yes, that absolutely can be the case. But then equally, once you've summited the peak and now you're going down the other side, running fast down technical descent at night is not easy. And you have to think quickly. You're forced to slow down. You're certainly never going the pace that you would in the daytime, where you have full visibility and you can look ahead. The other aspect that's very important in trail running is a thing called proprioception. Proprioception is, simply put, it's how we are in our immediate surroundings. So, and how we react to things like low-lying branches or our balance. Our proprioception is our natural reaction to what is immediately around us. And at night, that is obviously muted or subdued because we can't see everything that's around us. So it's very tricky navigating in the dark with limited visibility, really.
And I think that's where a big difference obviously will come to play with the experienced runners versus the, should I say, road runners, the Comrades Gold medalists who are descending onto some of the trail events that we're seeing a lot now. So I think that's definitely a place where the more experienced trail runners are definitely going to have a huge advantage.
You're absolutely right, Cuan. Inevitably, though, there's one's technical ability is partly innate. Some people are very good at it naturally, and other people need to learn it. And it is something that you can learn, and you certainly can improve at with practice. And you can get out of practice very easily. Just as running at night needs practice, particularly on technical trail. It looks as though Thomas is negotiating quite an interesting bit of fence there. And our viewers could see a little marker there. You saw the pink marker. I know from having done various KZN trail running races that the routes are well marked. The runners can rely on good course navigation and marking. It's always reassuring for trail runners, especially at night, to see these little pink flags and know that they're still on the right course.
Yeah, and for everyone that's watching at home, don't forget that we are also live on social media. If you're on Twitter, it's at KK Trail Series. You can tweet us if you've got any questions. On YouTube, where we are now, Karkloof Trail Series. And social media, obviously, Linda, playing a huge important role in an event like the Karkloof Trail Series.
Absolutely, and this is the first. This live broadcast is the first of its kind in South African trail running. So a huge shout out to KZN Trail Running for that achievement, and the Karkloof Trail Series, to the organisers Andrew Bruth and Jack Davis and the team behind making this happen. It's great.
Yeah, I must say the organisation here has been brilliant. It's almost like a little town within a town where we're based here at the Karkloof Country Club. We've got all the tents here, there's music playing. Some people are still having a bit of festivities up there, a few beers being cracked. I'm sure they'll be watching the rugby here as well on the weekend. But yeah, beautiful setting at the Karkloof Trail Series. And just as we talk a little bit more about the course and the technicalities, I remember I think it was 3 years ago when I went to the Ultra Trail Cape Town 100-kilometer trail race, and I was seconding Prodigal Kumalo, himself a Comrades Gold medalist, double Comrades Gold medalist. He'll be out in action here tomorrow in the 50-miler. But it was interesting to hear, Jock, with the things of what to say and what not to say to your runners. I think I definitely failed the test that day because Prodigal, at the first 30 kilometers into the race, he was right up there with all the guys, with Ryan Sands and the likes. I think Jock Green himself was actually running it that year. But when they got to Table Mountain and they got to a very, very technical section, Prodigal dropped back, if I'm not mistaken, it was over 10 minutes. And when he came through to the seconding spot, I remember saying to him, I'm like, Prodigal, you've just lost this race. You've lost over 10 minutes. But then 20 kilometers later, as they made their way through towards 50 kilometers and the very open and flat Hout Bay section, he had a 5-minute lead. He just ran them down.
Yes. It's a very interesting thing. I have to say, I have to make pass a comment at the expense of road runners, but us trail runners can always tell when we're running behind or we come across a road runner on the trails, because as soon as we hit any technical single track, they immediately slow down. They're unsure of their footing, and again, it's proprioception. It's the how fast the message from foot to brain, foot placement can carry, and that comes with practice and experience. And yes, Prodigal would have enjoyed the more open section in the second half of Ultra Trail Cape Town, where it goes through Hout Bay and then into the Cape Winelands, and hits the vineyards, where really he could open up quite a lead. I'm sure.
And a race like the Karkloof Trail Series, very similar to that open section of Ultra Trail Cape Town, not as technical along the course.
Very much so. I've seen only sections of this course, but there's forest sections where there is single track, but the most technical it'll get is roots in the ground. But there's a lot of jeep track. There's a lot of open running, especially through the Mbona section. Beautiful rolling hills that are certainly very taxing and very tiring. But your strong comrades runner will not be afraid.
We'll enjoy that, yeah. As we see some live visuals of one of the aid stations that are just in preparation for the lead runners who should be not so long from now. Still a good few minutes until they come. Race time at this moment just under an hour. So where this first aid station is here at the Karkloof Country Club, 16 kilometers into the race. So Linda, every runner's dream at the aid station. We've got oranges, we've got food, I'm sure coffee as well. What are the type of things that runners would be looking for at this stage, or would it still be too early to be craving something specific?
It is a bit too early to be craving, but they must eat early, even if they don't. You know, they certainly won't be feeling hungry, put it that way, and they shouldn't be. But here I see a close up there of crisps, some good carbs happening there. There's baked potato and there's
making me feel hungry here.
Salted crisps. That's salt is a very good, an important thing on an ultra. Same applies to comrades. It's you've got to keep your salts up. There I see some bananas and oranges. Those are my favorites. This early on in the race, they won't necessarily want to eat because they shouldn't need to eat in terms of hunger, but they should eat. They need to eat for later. So you need to eat now for later. It's the difficult thing, though, is that your system probably won't want to take food in because it's nighttime. We are not. Essentially, our bodies are wanting to close down and sleep because it's nightfall. Our natural circadian rhythm of our 24-hour body clock wants us to sort of shut down and prepare for bed. But obviously these runners need to fuel. They need to fuel for the hours that are ahead. And they'll need to eat whether they like it or not.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, you know, with the salt intake, your hydration, vitally important in an ultra distance, and especially in a 100-miler. And that's also where your body can play tricks with you. Just because it's cold doesn't mean that you're not thirsty. You still need to take in that water, take in the salts. Otherwise, if you don't, you can run into some serious problems.
Yeah. And also, Cuan, tomorrow is going to be hot. And tomorrow,
32 degrees they've mentioned.
Indeed. And tomorrow it'll be very important to reach for those salted crisps. And you know, many runners will be taking salt tablets, which are great, and it's important to do to replace lost salts. But yeah, tomorrow's gonna be the heat will be an additional challenge for the runners.
True, and of course with the loss of salt comes cramping, as if 100 miles is not enough that you have to contend with. You're also having to, you know, make sure that your body stays in tip-top shape. And as we saw the cameraman earlier jumping over fences, quite a few fences that the athletes have to navigate. And I'm not too sure if you'll know, Linda, but are there any river crossings that they'll have to navigate on a course like Karkloof?
I don't know the course well enough for that, but I don't think so on this particular 100-miler, no. But I see another fence there. We must remind our viewers that the race does cross more than 20 sections of privately owned farms and sections of land. So Thomas, our runner there, doesn't seem to have caught up with the runners yet. I think he needs to run a little faster.
Yeah,
but
it almost looked like he was going the opposite way. We saw the arrows pointing the other way there.
it is. It's great that we can see a good. We have visuals of what the runners, or the front runner, must be experiencing, because there obviously no runner in front of a front runner, so it's pure darkness. But the runners at this stage, Cuan, will still be fairly bunched, close together in bunches. It's very early on in the race. We're only an hour into the race, and they're on their first out and back loop section before they then pass through the country club.
Well, very chilly conditions here where we are at the Karkloof Country Club. The athletes just started at 8 o'clock, so we're just over an hour into the race. Of course, a long way still to go. We saw the pre-race interview with Andrew Erasmus, and he was saying in his pre-race interview that his goal is to actually try and run this race under 17 hours and 30 minutes. So sounds quite slow if you were running that on the road, but 17 hours, 30 minutes, over 100 miles on this terrain that the athletes are taking part in, a very, very phenomenal achievement, to say the least. Mentioned earlier that he has been second at this event twice before, picking up one DNF along the way, and he will be looking to not only replicate that second place, but hopefully step up on the podium to take the victory here at Karkloof. But he's going to have some tough challenges. We've got Admire Muzompambwa, the Zimbabwean athlete, very strong athlete, himself a 2:28 marathon runner that is out here in action today. This will be his first 100 miler. He previously tried to attempt the Ultra Trail Drakensberg, but did the 100 kilometer that day. But I'm joined in studio now with the Karkloof Trail organizer, Jack Davis. Jack, how's it going so far?
How's it, Cuan? Yeah, it's going well. I can't complain. I mean, how was that start? How valuable was that?
I was just saying to Linda that, you know, when you add a comment start line, it's very special, but this absolutely gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, that was absolutely cool. We were just chatting about it, Andrew, my co-race director, and I earlier, and like it's kind of quite a big milestone in the race. Get the runners out, get them out on course. We'll get some really accurate intel around how they're doing, and also, you know, maybe there's, you know, some modifications we're going to make, or check up on markings. When the guys come back in a little while, they'll be able to give us some feedback on what's really happening out there, which is great. So race start done. We're going into the night. We're starting to prepare. You'll see a lot of activity around the race village. You know, aids going out to all the aid stations. I'm about to leave to go out to the halfway point, get a few hours sleep there, and wait for the guys to come through. So right now, touch wood, all's good. It's cool. The hot weather's coming tomorrow, so we got a trailer full of ice plugged in at the back there, and we're ready to go.
No, definitely. And of course, this is the 5th running of the Karkloof Trail Series 100 miler. Just in terms of, we all know we're living currently in a pandemic. A lot of races got postponed. A lot of races got cancelled. Just, you know, talk us through about how it is to organize a race during a pandemic like this, whether it's touch and go, whether the race is still happening or not. You must have had some nerve-wracking times.
Yeah, there were some nerve-wracking times. I think what happened, and I'll take you back a couple of months, which was really cool, is a group of, I guess, well-established trail running event organizers got together and said, listen, if we want our livelihoods to continue, we do need to understand what these disaster management rules and acts mean, and try and figure out a way of how we can operate so we can still put races on over time. And a group of organizers got together, and we started up an association, a federation. We were lucky enough to get the blessing of the Minister of Sport and recognize the association, that we were able to operate under obviously strict protocols, but under level 2 and 1. And so we kind of been skating this line around where we are with waves, and level 3 and 4, obviously it gets very, very tricky to put events on, but level 2 and 1, we've been extremely lucky as Karkloof that we've kind of hit the bottom of the wave each September. Last September we were off level 1, after wave 1, just before wave 2, and now obviously wave 3 is on the way down, and we've got our timing spot on again. So it's been tricky. It's also, you know, it does put a lot of other complications on race organizing, and you'll see it tomorrow in particular. You've got to have batch starts, so we've got batches of 50 going off separated, so there's no, you know, their social gathering is practiced. practice. So your start line is very different. It's a rolling start line, and it's going to become common practice over the next year or two. I think it's happening at Cape Town Marathon in the mainstream in a few months' time. It's happening all over the world. These rolling starts are going to become more and more what they're used to. So that adds complication. It requires the runners to do more before the race. They've got to check a slot and book a slot and all of that kind of stuff. So it does add complications, but hell, we're just happy to have people out there somewhere and running again, which is super inspiring.
Yeah, no, definitely. You can see it, on the faces of the runners. They're happy to be here. There's just a great atmosphere in the air. So, I really take my hats off to you and your team for putting this event together, giving the runners meaning and something to look forward to again. And also with this broadcast, first of its kind in South Africa for trail running.
Yeah, totally. I think one thing that we're always trying to do is just every year just bring something new to the party, and you'll see every year there's a new innovation or two that we bring to the party, and just to try and push it and just take the sport to another level. Obviously we look around the world and you look at what other events are doing, and not to say that you wish we could be like these big events around the world, because we actually do a damn fine job of hosting events. We host some of the greatest mega events that the planet has to offer here, so we're really good at it. But you do take inspiration from some of the bigger races like the UTMB or like the Western States, and you realize that the world is changing, where people want to be able to watch and follow the race like they're following it now, and you look at the visuals and you see what everyone here is enjoying, and technology affords us that opportunity. So why not? Why not give everyone the opportunity around the world and around South Africa to see what the Karkloof 100 Mile is all about? And obviously we want to get more people inspired and more people to the start line next year, and that's a major goal. But the live broadcast is, it's great. Like, there are going to be teething problems. I think we've experienced a few already in the first hour. But hell, we're out there. We're trying our darndest. We obviously reliant on a few things out of our hands, like cell phone signal, what have you. But we've got some great athletes on the route running with cameras, which I think those footages are getting broadcast out there.
And I think that's in its own is a first of a kind, whether it's road running or trail running.
Totally. Yeah.
Fits enough cameramen that can keep up with the athletes.
Well, I think Thomas, who's one of the fitter guys in the country, I think he's probably aiming at doing about 60 Ks with the camera in his hand over the next 2 days.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So the live broadcast is really cool. The other really, really good new initiative that we're proud of is we introduced what's called the People's Trophy this year, and you would have seen it on the visuals, but essentially in our mind everyone who finishes a 100 miler is a champion.
It's a winner, yeah.
And so why should you have only first, second, third or first place engraved on a trophy that lives forever? So we made a trophy this year that has every single finisher's name engraved on there, and that trophy will grow and grow and grow. And we must maybe get it into studio here for a while for you guys to show.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
But in 5 or 10 years' time, that trophy is going to be huge. And so everyone comes along and they look at their names and they point it out and they see what's what and all of that. So that's been a really cool initiative, and I think it'll spark a bit of interest and a bit of inspiration for people to get on the start line next year.
And aptly named, the People's Trophy. There's a lot of families here, as we see some of the visuals there. Lots of people that are staying here in tents, and it's not just about the runners, it's a family affair here.
Yeah, well, that's so important what you say there, Cuan, because I think the ethos of the race and why we built it was because we wanted to incorporate everyone's community. Long distance running, ultra running is tough. You spend hours away from your family, you spend hours away from your loved ones, your kids, your wives, your husbands. And so we've created a race where people can see their family as often as possible. Supporters can get out on the route. I think they can see their runners up to 18 times across the route. And why not? Cheapers, they've sacrificed as much as all of us. So it is about community. It's about it's about everyone. I'll tell you a funny story. In our very first year, we were putting this thing together. I think we had 45 starters on the 100, and the one thing we forgot to organize was a photographer. And we put a little call out to everyone. We said, hey guys, listen, here's a hashtag. just there's people on the course, just share stuff and hashtag. It was the most amazing experience. Like everyone just got involved, and you had all the supporters just doing their own thing and sharing photos and what have you. And it was great. So it is about the people, the runners, and the supporters, and the crew, and the volunteers, and everyone involved. It's a hell of a setup. Everyone takes some sort of inspiration out of being involved, which is cool.
No, definitely. And just in terms of how you guys are being innovative with the different initiatives, the live broadcast, the People's Trophy, what's your vision of the race, say in 3 to 5 years' time? Obviously, we're hoping the world gets back to normal.
Sure.
Do we see perhaps some big name international athletes descending into Karkloof in the future?
100%. I think some of the viewers would know, I'm not sure if you know, but we're a Western States qualifier, which is great. And Western States being the big race in North America, and UTMB being the big race in Europe, a lot of runners start looking for races that they can go qualify so that they can get onto those start lines. Personally, I really want to grow that further. I would love for the Karkloof 100 miler to be a golden ticket event to Western States. And what that means is that essentially first and second place at Karkloof get a ticket straight into Western States. They don't even have to go into the lottery. And that's at the moment it's a dream, but I'm going to be working hard in the background to ensure that, because once you become a golden ticket event, then you've got people around the world who are going to come and get you to race, so that they can be in that first and second and get a slot at being one of the 364 people on the start line in Western States. So that's the one vision. The other vision is just to continue changing people's lives. You saw a bunch of people on the start line here earlier. They're going to be fundamentally different people on Sunday morning when they walk up here and they pick their buckle up from Andrew and I.
Yeah.
And if we can continue to affect positive change in runners and their families, that's job done, and you just got to keep on doing that, because life's hard enough as it is. We need to have some wins.
No, definitely.
And so that's certainly is still the vision. Yeah.
And any parting words, Jack, as you venture off tonight into the darkness?
Well, I think the viewers can probably see the People's Trophy on their screen now, which is great. So I guess my parting words are: there's a space there for everyone, and as you look at the trophy, that's just going to grow and grow and grow. And if you know your sports, you'll know the trophy from the Stanley Cup, the hockey cup, the hockey competition in North America. It stands about 5 foot tall. The Curry Cup as well is very similar, small little trophy on the top, and it's huge. My parting shots are, get out there, run, put one foot in front of the other, and get involved, and whether it be at the Karkloof Trail Series or whether it be at any other race, but get out there and run. It's the most amazing thing, and it's life changing.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thank you, Jack, for stepping into the studio.
No, lovely.
Before you go out into the darkness there and go to the halfway point.
Thank you very much. Thanks for all the work that you guys are doing.
Thank you. That was a race organizer, one half of the race organizer, together with Andrew Booth. There was Jack Davis putting on a tremendous show here in the Karkloof 100 miler, the trail series. We're based here at the Karkloof Country Club, and it's an amazing setting.
Yeah, now,
it is
because they're
very
shutting
chilly,
down.
I must say. The temperatures have gone down quite drastically. I've got my sleeping bag here keeping me warm, but so far so good with the cell phone signal. The athletes, probably not too long until the first athletes come past here at the first checkpoint, 16 kilometers into the race, or 10 miles, as it's more affectionately known in the trail event. But Linda, great interview there with Jack, and phenomenal what him and his team are doing here, not just for the event, but trail running itself.
Absolutely. And, this innovative live broadcast being the first of its kind, happening in trail running is great, and
going to Western States.
Fantastic, yeah.
In terms of trail running, Western States, is that the pinnacle of ultra distance trail running?
I would say it is one of them. It's one of them. It's very much on the map. But that's one of the many American ones. America has a lot of 100 milers and has had for decades. But there are many iconic European ones, which are more mountain-based, far more technical. UTMB is very much one of them.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Yeah, but there are many. And it's not really fair on one to pinpoint it as the iconic. Yeah.
As we see one of the aid stations there again, this is where we are based here at the Karkloof Country Club. And in terms of running time now, Linda, 1 hour, 15 odd minutes into the race. By the sounds of things, one of the athletes are nearly here. How long do you think, Linda, would it take for the athletes, or for the leaders especially, to cover the first 10 miles?
Yeah, that is a tricky one actually, because it is night time. We must remember that, and it hasn't all been open jeep track. There has been some, as we've seen on the camera, but there has been some single track, and I'm not too sure that was the front runners coming through. I think that was some excited spectators. But yeah, I'm not too sure of the timeline for this first lap. Remember that there is some technical descent down to the Howick Falls, and then back out of that valley, and back round again. And the distance is roughly 15 k's. So I think it is still a little bit soon, because remember, it is nighttime, and we do need to take that into account.
And as you also mentioned, Linda, there's no 100-mile race that's the same out there. Every one of them is different. So when it comes to 100 miles, time really is not something that's considered to be there. It's more the victories. Your times and records can be broken, but it's the victories that count, and that you really go for.
That's right. And also within a race, you can have sections that are more technical than others. So it really varies. Whereas something like, comparing it to something like the Comrades, obviously, coming up Fields Hill will slow a runner down, a front runner down, not terribly much actually, but to some extent. But here on trail, a mountain can absolutely slow the entire field right down, just as the descent on the other side speeds it up.
Well, especially a very rocky section.
That's right. And there's various degrees of technicality as well. So it can be river crossings, it can be particularly slippery or muddy sections. Every race is different, so that's why 100 mile or one trail distance cannot be compared with another.
And you yourself, Linda, you've done multiple 100-mile trail runs before. When it comes to the courses, what's your favorite?
I'm a fan of more technical. The more technical, the better for me. I love mountain running, and I love single track. It comes with its own challenges. Obviously, there's the challenge of the terrain. There's a challenge of the different climatic conditions in a race. So, and with mountains comes the unpredictable weather conditions. Even locally, locally to South Africa, a race like Ultra Trail Cape Town as a 100-kilometer race comes with a lot of variables on the day. You can get heavy mist on top of Table Mountain, and you can get a lot of heat 40 k's later in the Wineland area in the second half of the race. So there are a lot of variables. Take the Karkloof, for instance. Tomorrow we're going to have 32 degrees, it's predicted. And yet a couple of years ago there was a lot of rain, which brought with it a lot of muddy conditions. And the conditions underfoot in this part of the world, here the soil is such that it's very clayey, and this mud sticks to the bottom of the shoes, and no trail runner likes mud. Really, it's a case of one step forward, 3 slides back. It's very frustrating, and the mud can stick to the bottom of your shoes. You end up running with a big clog.
So your racing shoes literally become bricks almost.
Oh wow, yeah. So there are a lot of variables, and it all depends on. Here we have our front runners coming through and reaching our.
Certainly catching us all a little
We're
bit.
literally
As our first two runners come
1 hour 20 minutes
an hour 20, that's 1, 2, 3.
into the race. We've got the 3 front runners, so we can't quite see who they are.
The aid, it's out, it's around the lights, the fairy lights.
Very fast running, Linda, for that first section.
There's always a lot of speed in the early stages, yeah.
Now, Cuan, these runners will rush through there.
On you go.
These runners will pass through the aid station with literally 30 seconds. They'll grab what they need and they'll move very quickly out. Compared to your middle pack runners, who maybe spend about 4 minutes here, it's very early on in the race, so they don't need much.
As we just saw, you can't see it on your screen, but the third athlete just ran straight through that first aid section. We can see him coming through here with the light. That actually is Admire Muzompambwa, the Zimbabwean athlete who bases himself here in South Africa, resident in Johannesburg, and his fiance coincidentally is running the 42-kilometer here tomorrow. So I think she's going to be definitely on his mind the entire time while he's still trying to concentrate on his race. But I found that quite fascinating how he didn't even stop there. It was just straight in and out, not wanting to lose any time at this stage.
Right. Well, hopefully on the way through he would have grabbed a banana or something, because the next aid station is roughly it's Rockwood. It's roughly all the major aid stations are 10 miles apart, so roughly 15 to 16 kilometers apart. But there will be a caravan aid station halfway between here and Rockwood, where he can grab Coke or water, but there won't be any food.
And I must say, I was very surprised at the speed of which the athletes not only got back to the Karkloof Country Club where we are situated here, but just how quickly they also left.
Right, those 4 got us very excited, but I tell you they're off.
So there were 4 runners so far that have come through to the first aid station. We'll have to just check on our app just to confirm who the other 3 athletes were. It's still quite dark to identify some of them, but the athletes in third definitely was the Zimbabwean athlete Admire Muzompambwa, who's doing his first 100-miler today. Of course, earlier this year he did the Ultra Trail Drakensberg, where he did the 100-kilometer, and he's going to be looking to do something special here today.
Yeah, it's very, very early days, I must say. It's a lot can change in the race. We're literally 15 kilometers into the race, and 100 miles is a very long way, so things can change at any stage. Here we have the next 3 runners coming through. They're moving at a slightly slower pace, but these are still very much front runners of the race. You notice they're also moving straight through. They've grabbed a quick munch. That's Brad Hyman. So I think that was in 5th place. Brad is reaching for some.
But no, they come the next 3. That's 7.
He's replenishing his water.
A couple of still bobbing their way through.
And I think that may have been Andrew Erasmus just behind him, if I'm not mistaken. Dumiseni Zondi, one of the local athletes here that are assisting some of the runners. Just a quick drink of water there as they make their way through, and you can see that he's dressed fairly warm there, Linda. Big jacket on him, obviously to keep him a little bit warm as they go further into the valley now.
That is interesting. You know, obviously people. You notice he's got his jacket on over his pack.
Yeah.
That's a good tactic to use in case of rain. We're not expecting any rain tonight, but it is good because it means that should he take it off, which is likely to do, I imagine. Should he take it off, he doesn't have to fiddle with taking off his pack to then take off his jacket, to then put his pack back on. He can just whip it off. Andrew Erasmus has just passed through, and he's out the checkpoint on the other side.
And I think this will be Andrew that we see running onto our screen now, just as he makes his way through the first aid station here at 10 miles.
Yes, that's Andrew.
Well, 2 previous podium finishes there for Andrew, 2 second place finishes. He definitely, as it says there, Andrew Erasmus, a definite podium contender. Looking very relaxed, I must add, Linda. When the first 3 or 4 athletes came through, it looked a little bit of concern on their faces. They just wanted to get in and out as quick as possible. Whereas an athlete like Andrew, who has finished on this podium twice, a lot more relaxed. He knows exactly how to pace himself, and he knows what to do.
Yeah. I think in terms of trail experience and maturity, racing trail, Andrew has a lot more experience than them. I absolutely agree with what you were saying. Those front 3 runners looked in a bit of a panic. They're not necessarily running their own race. They're very much affected by each other, and it's very early days. A lot can happen, and a lot will happen. And I doubt those 3 runners will still be the 3 front runners in 100 kilometers time. A lot will happen. Andrew's in control of his game. You can see that.
And I'm sure you know yourself as a coach, you must be very anxious and excited to see one of your athletes. You have countless athletes here, but definitely in the women's race, Joe Kepler, one of the main contenders. How long do you think it will be until we see some of the leading ladies come through?
I think another within the next 10 minutes. I'm guessing, but it is quite a common trait for the men to go off very fast. Not all men. Some have the level of racing maturity to know to hold back. But to take off very fast on a 100 miler on a long race like this is a big risk to take.
As long as you run through the arch, guys.
I'm really hoping that Joe will have held back. I know that Trish will have held back because she'll know to. Trish is not experienced on the 100-miler races, but she's extremely experienced in other races. So she'll play the game very wisely, and I'm hoping that Joe will too.
Yeah, and there's definitely a true fact that you mentioned there, Linda, where the female athletes definitely know how to pace themselves better. We often see it at the Comrades, for example, and 2018 Comrades Marathon winner Anne Ashworth, who we'll see in action tomorrow in the 50-mile, she actually ran in the 2018 Comrades Marathon down run when she won. She was the second fastest athlete from Pound Town to the finish overall, including the top 10 men. And, as they go through the halfway mark at Comrades, they'll probably find themselves in 300th position or so. But at the end of the day, the women are starting to finish in the top 30 at Comrades. And also, I've seen some studies that were done that the longer the distance, the women are catching up to the front men.
Oh, very much so. And in some races, some in South Africa actually, Naomi Brandt won UTD overall a couple of years ago. I think it was 2019. I'm not sure. And certainly overseas, there've been several races where women have won outright.
And do you put that down to just pacing, or is it the ability to withstand pain better?
Oh, I think it's a multitude of factors actually. It's certainly holding back and having the level of maturity to hold back in the beginning and not let adrenaline and men's
egos.
Testosterone and egos get the better of them. But it's also women are proven to excel in endurance, and also to release the energy, release their and execute their plan better, and to just run within themselves to a point and gradually meter out the energy as they need it.
No, definitely.
I see Joe's mum, who is seconding her along the way and will be pacing with her tomorrow. I see her getting quite excited there. I think Joe won't be far off, which means that Trish won't be far off either. And who knows, there may well be 2 or 3 other women, and let's hope so for the spectator value. Yeah, who will prove themselves to be up there and podium contenders later in the race.
And it'll also be very interesting to see. We've had maybe around 10 or so athletes that have come through this first checkpoint so far. So the women at this stage won't be in the top 10. But I think when the winner crosses the line tomorrow, especially in the women's race, they'll be well under the top 10 overall.
Yes, I predict so. Indeed. One, maybe both of them might. Let's hope that there is a close women's race.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot can happen in the 100 miles. And I saw quite an interesting thing when one of the earlier leaders came through. He had his earphones hanging off the back of him. That's quite a thing. I know in road running it's not allowed. You're not allowed to use earphones and music, but on trail running it is allowed. Helps the athletes to get through some pretty dark spaces.
It does indeed. It's not allowed in every race. There are races that I've run where we specifically not allowed, and that's for safety reasons. Some races have fire risk. Other races just need you to be fully alert to everything around you, so they don't allow music. But most don't have that limitation. So yes, some runners enjoy music in their ears, others don't. Personally, I don't. I like the rhythm and the sound of hearing my own footfall on the trail, and feeling at one with or in touch with everything around me. But others love it, and it helps them. It motivates them. It drives them. So yeah, it certainly helps in the night. I see many headlamps coming now.
Yeah, there's around 4 of them coming through at this stage.
Yeah, and a few more behind that.
And
so
that looks actually, Linda, like it's the leading lady there. That could be Joe.
There's a little group coming through here. Some of the first of our lady runners as well.
Yeah.
Looks like Joe Kipler, perhaps.
Yeah, this Joe Kipler coming through the lead, Linda.
A little bit difficult to see in the dark, but welcome in here, guys. Just get scanned in there. Just be a little bit patient.
Our lead lady coming through the first checkpoint. That is indeed Joe.
1 hour 33 minutes into the race.
Great.
First and last station of Karkloof 21.
She is bang on track with her timing. I know her timing. Obviously, she's still looking fresh.
And not feeling the cold, no jackets on.
No. And out she goes. A quick stop at the checkpoint.
And in terms of training, Linda, an athlete like Joe, coming up with the training programs, the nutrition plan also plays a huge role. How long does it take to build the ultimate nutrition plan in an event like 100 miles?
Everybody is different. Everybody is different. That's really all I can say. So what works for one person on a race won't necessarily be effective for the next. So some people thrive on gels and powders. Other people prefer a more natural food choice. I see Joe's going out there with one of the guy runners, which is great.
Really nice, especially in the dark.
Yeah, it really does help. You know, it's lonely running in the dark. It's quite disconcerting as well. Joe does know this route. She's a local runner. She lives just outside of Hilton. She also, interestingly, does all her. She's a morning runner, and she does a lot of her runs long before the sun is up. So she's very comfortable running at night, running in the dark.
And an interesting point that you made out there, that she does a lot of her running, in the dark, very early hours of the morning. Although these athletes are elite and are out of this world and above average humans, a lot of them aren't full-time runners. They still have to go home,
Absolutely.
make food for the family,
Absolutely.
and go to their 8 to 5 jobs.
Joe is a mum, and Joe holds a full-time job. So absolutely, it's a big ask of the body and of the system. Training for a 100-miler, there's a lot of time, a lot of hours spent, and it's a big ask of the family. So a lot of patience, a lot of dedication, and a lot of devotion to the sport we love.
Well, we saw Joe come through here at the first checkpoint, an hour 33 minutes into the event. 3 or 4 minutes have gone by so far, so it'll be interesting to see, Linda, where the second athlete is at this stage, whether it will be Trish Eckstein or perhaps a surprise or two further down the line.
Indeed. The important thing is to remember that it's very early days, and you'll hear me say that a lot, I must say, because I think up to about 60 Ks into a 100-miler can be considered still very early days. A lot can change.
We're going to give him a warm round of applause. That's
we have another runner coming through.
Early stages, but lots of energy too.
Yeah.
I've also heard some athletes laugh that the halfway mark of a 100-miler is at 100 kilometers.
100 Ks, yes indeed. And a lot can change after 100 Ks. Certainly on the eating, on the digestion, on the fatigue side, a lot can happen. But as you'll see, all the runners coming through at this early part of the race, and at this still front end of the race, of the field, they're all looking very fresh. Everybody's very charged still.
And that's the first runner, Linda, that I actually saw come through that actually has poles with them.
Right. This is a very pole-friendly course.
Do the poles help in a way?
Yes, absolutely they do. You have to certainly have trained with your poles. You can't just expect poles to automatically help you, because you've got to get a rhythm. You have to have practiced and learned how to set up a rhythm with your poles. Poles are a very the Europeans love poles, and they're very good with poles. They use them on uphills and downhills. Now I certainly am useless with poles on a technical downhill. I would have to tuck them away, and poles tend to annoy me. I'm not a pole fan personally, but if you know how to use poles well, then certainly poles help you on the level of fatigue. They're said to save as much as 30% energy.
Wow, that's
much
amazing.
Like from a cycling perspective, drafting helps save energy. Poles will help you, but you have to know how to use them right.
That actually reminds me of a funny story earlier this year, where I was assisting Anne and David Ashworth at the Ultra Trail Drakensberg 100 kilometer. It was their first ultra trail race that they did, and we were actually at the start line there by the Lesotho Sani Pass, where for the first time they opened the poles, and we didn't actually know how to actually take them out. So that was quite a funny instance there, and then she ended up winning the race. So that was a great thing. But by the looks of things, the second lady, Trish Eckstein, coming through. 6 minutes down on the leading lady, Joe Kepler.
Excellent. And I see she's
Good
coming
lady.
through with,
1, 2, 3.
with a
There you
handful
go.
of men, which is great because that means
I
that
believe all the way from Cape Town as well.
they won't be
It's going to turn out to be an
alone.
interesting run. So a lot of the IDB run
And the
tomorrow.
leaders are already heading
These are the early
towards
stages,
to
sussing each other
Rockwood,
out.
which is the next
Looks like
checkpoint.
fourth lady as well, just entered the arena.
And this looks like
And
our
here
leading
we go.
athletes, where
All
the
quite
very
close up front
talented
here.
cameraman Thomas
So
is
they've
busy
probably got
following
about
them.
10 minutes on them. There we go, just pause, wait, someone's missed the scan there, guys. Sorry, there are a lot of you coming through. Just be patient as
Seeing
we
on the
scan you
screen,
through. It is
the
very
front runner.
important that all of you do get scanned through.
Our cameraman Thomas is on that front runner on the left-hand side of your
Just be
screen.
patient with us.
While
Take
on
a
the
couple of
right,
deep breaths.
you've got woman
Let that heart rate slow down by just
number 2
a
and
fraction
3
of a second,
and
because
even
it's going
4
to
passing through the
pay dividends down the
passing
line.
through
So
our
it is taking a
checkpoint
little
here, the
longer
first
than
checkpoint, which is
is
just
ideal.
15 kilometers into the race.
The other side.
Well, very exciting race there in the ladies' race with second, third, and fourth there. Trish Eckstein coming through in that second place, 6 minutes down. Quite a large gap, Linda. 6 minutes, 15 kilometers into the race, but I wouldn't say that Jo has gone out too hard. She's very experienced in the sport, but if you look at the pace that our leader is doing on the left, that's pretty fast running, especially for these dark conditions.
This kid's got a few supporters. Yeah.
He looks very comfortable on that single track. It's not technical. I see it's not technical at all, but it is single track, so he will be going significantly slower than he would be going if it were open Jeep track. But obviously his headlamp will suffice. I'm interested to know how close behind him will be runner number 2. There's obviously not a front pack as such. It looks as though just a lead runner, and that lead runner, do you think is Admire?
Admire was in the second position, so that lead runner at this stage is not Admire. If I'm not mistaken, I think Admire was in the red T-shirt with a bandana on. So the thing that I do like, Linda, at that stage, Admire is by far the fastest runner in the field, especially in terms of his marathon time, a 2:28 marathon runner. He, well within his means, could be with this lead runner, but has taken it slower in the beginning.
Yes.
A good sign of wise tactician there.
Absolutely. And you will see many of those wise tactics unfolding as the race progresses. South Africa's most experienced and I still think best trail runner, and certainly the most favorite trail runner is, as you know, is Ryan Sands. And Ryan plays a very clever game with his ultras. He hangs back. He normally fronts the chase pack or the back of the lead pack, and he only sort of puts his foot down and reels in the front guys after, well, certainly around about the 90k mark, and then he puts his foot down and often claims the race.
So it's safe to say that Ryan could be the Bruce Wardhouse of trail running.
Yes, Bruce is
Master
well known for that. The good old handshake on poly shorts, absolutely. Very tactical moving.
Yeah, I remember back in the 80s there, where Bruce used to run down the likes of Hosea Charlie, Bob Delamotte, and Mark Page, and when he reaches that handout, I wouldn't want to know what goes through the mind of his competitors.
Yes, Bruce often tells the story of overtaking them wherever on poly shorts at a strategic time and giving them the handshake and saying, "Well done, you're looking good." But of course the mental jab there is, "But I'm better because I'm overtaking you."
100%.
Oh, we see Jacques Marais there at the
welcome into aid
Cape
station
Town,
number 1.
Cape Town trail runner Jacques Marais.
You've got your first
Who's,
section under the
doing
belt. You'll
his
run
first
that in a
100 miler.
reverse order on your way back out
today.
tomorrow afternoon.
He's hoping to
evening,
run
or even
a sub
early on
24
Sunday morning,
hour.
depending on what time you get back out.
And he's done
Still in the
a
first
lot
half
of training.
the field,
He's done all the
so
prep, and
still fairly
I
early
think he's going to
days.
run a good race.
Yeah, and his wife Bobby and his
Welcome
kids
in the
Josh and Chloe are out there on the
Absolutely.
course supporting him. So just as Jack
First
mentioned
aid
earlier,
station.
you know, big family
Welcome
affair
in the
here.
home.
Everyone out to support their loved ones.
With some time to come. There we go. Give him a round of
And his
applause.
wife Bobby has just walked past the
Welcome.
camera. Still strong in the lead there, keeping up a good pace.
Yeah, definite fast pace there.
He's only got Thomas the cameraman behind him, it looks like.
I wonder if Thomas will also get a buckle for his role in this race. Running very, very far here today, so hats off to Thomas. Not only a talented cameraman, but a talented runner.
We need to know who that is.
We'll have to try and check on the app if it's updated with the times coming through, as we see some more athletes making their way through the first 8 station there. But the app that we'll get the results from will be shortly available, maybe in the next 2 to 5 minutes, and then we'll be able to identify
over 40 runners through that, so just
elite
under half the
athlete
field.
who's leading quite hard at this stage. Obviously, we're in the pitch blackness here of the Karkloof Mountains, but around 40 athletes, Linda, have come through this first 8 station. Quite a lot already at this stage, and fast times as well, being only an hour 45 odd minutes into the 2021 Karkloof 100 miler. There's still a lot of supporters out here at the Karkloof Country Club. Beautiful setting here. Lots of families still awake. We'll all be in our tents by the curfew at 11 p.m. Of course, this race taking place during level 2 lockdown, but with the support of the sports minister here, and hats off to the organizers for putting an event on in the midst of a pandemic, and more and more races slowly but surely, Linda, making their way through to the calendar.
Yes, and I think we're all really hungry for that, for sure. As you can see, that front runner has...
Looked a bit of a technical section there around all the trees.
Yes, it did. He's on his way
There
to
you go.
the
Always,
top of
a
Honey
good
Loop,
warning sign when
which
the round
is,
of applause starts
which is
into the
well,
first
he's-
aid station
He's
here.
past
Great effort.
Honey Loop, which is where the caravan aid station
The bells
was.
as well, quite a traditional thing.
Halfway
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
between where
Keep
we
them
are, the
going
country club,
all right,
and
guys.
Rockwood, which is the next aid station, the second aid station.
And as we mentioned, parts of the route, we've got a short little video to take you through on the section between the Karkloof Country Club and the Rockwood area. Well, it's a beautiful section of the route there between the Karkloof Country Club and Rockwood, and very different seeing it there, Linda, in the daylight. The runner's not going to see any of that as they navigate their way through the night. Now almost 10 p.m. into the evening.
Absolutely, running at night's quite a different experience from running in the day. You don't have any landmarks, you really have no idea where you are, and you have to trust what you're seeing all you see is this tunnel of light directly in front of you. So any front runner will have no idea how far behind or how close on his heels the runner number 2 or even a whole chase pack is. Obviously, if he is in an open area and perhaps up a hill, he can look behind and possibly he'll see
Look
some
out for the
headlamps.
headlamp.
Yeah, so that's another tactical way to tell sort of where you are. But yeah, it's quite disconcerting not seeing any landmarks.
And just in terms of training, Linda, for an event like this 100 miler, we touched on earlier how the experienced trail athletes, especially in the technical sections, can really create a huge gap on the road runners who are essentially in terms rookies when it comes to trail running. In terms of training for an event like the 100 miler, of course your long run is really important because you need to build the base and the endurance to get you through 100 miles. But in terms of, we see a lot of 100-mile races that obviously start at night and run through the night into the morning. In terms of training, do you also train during the night to replicate the conditions? Or do you just face these scenarios when you're coming to an actual event?
No, in preparation for a trail race, it's really important to research the terrain of the race you're going to be running. Some are flatter than others, some are more technical than others are mountain races. And in your training, you need to, as best you can, simulate race conditions. Some races, for example, might be in particularly hot, dry conditions. So you need to try and train in those conditions as best you can. So it might mean that you do a weekend away in the Drakensberg if you live in a particularly flat part of the world, if you're training for a mountain run. So you need to try and emulate as much as you can, even if only to learn how to cope in those conditions, in those heat conditions or climatic conditions, as much as on the terrain.
1, 2, a huge group. This is like
we have a really big group coming through now, and we're probably
to backpack group. So
we're probably sort of mid to back,
right in the middle of the field
back
here,
of the
guys.
field
And
coming
as you can
through
see, there's a
now.
lot of runners coming through.
And
So
quite a
hopefully
sizable
our
field
standing
as well for a 100 miler.
So be patient as you get scanned. We need to scan all of you through. Nice, guys. Welcome in. There we go. Hey, nice, Belinda.
Cuan, you hear the sound of cowbells being run there.
I wanted to ask about
Quite a
that.
traditional thing to do, not just on 100 milers, but on trail races, trail
You make sure
events.
you get scanned.
It's very popular in European races.
I've seen that definitely with UTMB.
That's right. Being alpine, obviously on the alpine slopes there are cows grazing and cattle grazing, and the villagers supporting the race stand alongside the trails near the checkpoints or out on the trails, and they ring cowbells. And it's a lovely tradition to encourage the runners.
So similar as to what Chariots of Fire is to Comrades Marathon, the cowbell is to trail running.
In some respects.
There we go. Not too hot. I remember 2019, the hot year didn't cool down overnight.
But conditions out on the course at this stage still very cool indeed.
Oh, good.
As opposed to what some of the runners will be facing tomorrow,
Eat and drink.
where current weather indications indicate that the temperature will be around 32 degrees at midday. Very, very hot, and especially because we're in KZN, a lot of the humidity also comes with that, so 32 degrees, so it's not just going to be hot, but humid as well.
Yeah, I don't envy the runners tomorrow. They're going to be chilly tonight, not too chilly, and in fact they probably won't really feel the chill there. You and I will feel the chill. They won't necessarily, but as soon as the sun comes up tomorrow, the temperature will really start rising, and we're gonna be hitting 32 apparently.
Wow, I do not want to envy the runners, especially the athletes that are taking part in the 100 miler. But also tomorrow we've got the start of the 50 miler. That's 80 kilometers. Still a long way. It's I was telling Anne earlier when she came to register, you're basically running comrades on cross country tomorrow.
Absolutely, 50 miles and a good 80 k's. So although
there we go, looking under control. There's one of the first people we see wearing long
it's still
tops
very
there.
much an
So
ultra.
they're looking very comfortable as well. Not too much sweat.
So we're seeing the mid to backpackers.
There we go, some big cheers for guys. Before that, saw Isak coming through, one of the biggest Karkloof fans. He didn't make last year, but Isak, I've got my money on you this year, my friend. Aid station by aid station. That's how we're going to do this thing. This is the first one. If you think about it,
Cuan, the very important thing about
you'll be on the other side of the course.
About achieving
turn around,
distance as long as 100 miles
we'll
is
break
to
it up
not
step by
see
step,
it as
aid
one
station by aid
single
station, just like
large
we said in race
chunk
briefing.
to have to achieve, because that's very
A
daunting.
little train of
Rather to take it
runners here,
in small bites.
pacing it up
And a
nicely,
really useful way
using
to
each
do
other's
it is
energy,
from
feeding
checkpoint
off
to
one
checkpoint.
another, meeting one
And
another.
this particular
Perhaps for the
race
first time, you'll make some of
is
your
great
greatest friends
because
today. Well done, guys. Welcome
10 miles.
into
So a
the
10
first
mile
aid station here.
And they're
This is the second half of the
there are
field
enough
now, probably
checkpoints to get you
positioned
through,
around about 70
little
to
bites.
80,
That's
I would say we're
digestible,
in here.
that's doable.
If I had to
Just
take a
get to the
guess at
next
it.
checkpoint.
Well done,
And then
guys.
once you
Great
get
to
there,
have you
just get to the next
here.
checkpoint.
Rihanna Henning coming
Still
through.
quite daunting though when you have to say, I only have 10 miles to do.
Challenge that's running 400
At least
miles
though,
in this calendar
there
year.
are the mobile, the caravan aid stations, which are smaller aid stations where the runners will only have water and coke, but at least it is a halfway point between the major aid stations.
Nice one,
Which is great,
Andrew. Welcome into the first aid station here at the Karkloof Country Club. It used to be the Karkloof Farmers Market. Now, if you're looking for a place to go and catch a bit of a coffee and something to eat, a bit of a vibe tomorrow morning, between crew and your runner, go and check out the Farmers Market. But welcome, our next two runners coming in here, side by side, look like they're doing it together. Very comfortable. Well done, guys. That's a good first 10 miles. You've been chilled. Nice.
You see a lot of the race officials there, Linda, dressed as pirates.
Well, that's actually the Pirates Running Club
from Johannesburg. Yeah.
There's a big band of them, and I use that word. A big band of pirates who come to support this race for the 100 miler and for the 50 miler tomorrow.
I've actually run their race, the Pirates Half Marathon. Quite a challenging course, I must add, up in Johannesburg, and also one of their more infamous runs, the Pub to Pub run, where they also dress as pirates, and a lot of nice festivities there. But I don't think anyone will be drinking beers at this stage of the race, but I think definitely once they cross the line, a couple beers are going to be cracked. See some of the runners there just filling the hydration packs, putting a lot of goodies into there. I'm sure the athletes also eat a lot of sweets along the way, jelly babies, some chocolate for a bit of sugar into the system.
Yeah. Race nutrition is such a personal preference. A lot of people keep away from the simple sugars and go for the more slow-burning sugars. Some people prefer gels. Other people prefer, real food. I'm one of those. I go for nuts, slow burning sugars in terms of.
Welcome into our next runner.
Fruit is
taking it nice and easy in the early stages. There we go. He knows what he's doing. It's very early. A long way to go. The enthusiasm's there, but you've got to control it somehow as well, because you feel good in these early stages. You want to go. somehow you find the discipline to go back.
It's great, and the salt.
Well done. Bringing
And,
it to the
and Linda,
first
in
station now.
your adventures of running 100 milers, I know for myself when I've run Comrades, which was only 90 kilometers, and I say only 90 because this is absolutely epic that athletes are taking on 160 kilometers. But I remember when I've run Comrades in the past, I've had like the most weirdest cravings almost after 80 kilometers for certain foods or substances. What's been the most craziest craving you've experienced when you've been out there on a 100-mile course?
Well, I once did a 100-miler in India called Run the Ram, as in
Alright, it's 10 o'clock, guys, so if you do want to order a last drink at the bar, this is your very last chance.
of which there
Very
were
last chance. But
few,
you're welcoming in our next
they had curry.
participant chat.
Oh, wow.
Taking it
They
nice
had
and
curry,
easy.
and there was nothing
Early
else you could
stages.
have. And being a race on the other side of the world, I wasn't able to fly with all my own provisions. So I was reliant on what they had at checkpoints, and I was literally eating paneer in a curry sauce.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh dear, this could go horribly wrong. Thankfully it didn't, but you know, that old adage,
Never try anything
never
new.
try anything new on race day. Well, what could I do? I had no choice. But yeah, I must, to answer your question, I couldn't say that I was craving curry. I just didn't have a choice. So that's probably the weirdest thing I've eaten on the race.
And in that particular race, how did you end up performing?
I came tied second overall.
Wow. So I take it that curry didn't play any part in future.
Maybe it fueled me.
Well, just a reminder to viewers, as we go past 10 o'clock now, we'll be with you live on this broadcast until 11 p.m. tonight, when the curfew officially hits in, and we'll have to retreat to our little tent village in the back. But we'll be back with you again at 5:30 tomorrow morning, Linda, if I'm not mistaken.
Here, but here come three
We're
more
now
of
2
our
hours and 1
100
minute
milers.
into
I
the
can see
race.
another light bobbing up and down in the background
Still-
as well. Welcome in, guys.
Still some headlights coming in to our checkpoint, which is
You're seeing a good pace,
We're in the,
and I'm
at
quite
the
serious
15K
about that.
mark.
You've been out there
I
for
see
2
three more
hours.
runners coming in.
I think Kurbis Olwage, one of the athletes that are coming through here, Johan Brits just in front of him. So although we call them mid to backpackers, Linda, these are the athletes that actually make these events happen. Because if it wasn't for these athletes, we wouldn't have events to put on. It's not just about the elite athletes up front, it's about everyone who takes part.
Indeed, and you know, every single one of these athletes has put in a lot of many months of hard training. They've made sacrifices, financial sacrifices, they've made time sacrifices, their families have had to make sacrifices, and you know, it's really not only about the day. It's very much about the months leading up to a race. I see Rihanna Henning's name. She must have passed through our checkpoint a couple of minutes ago. Rihanna is one of the 5 runners who are contending for the Umuk trophy or achievement. Umuk is the achieving of the completion of the 400-miler trail races in a year. That's the AMUK. So it's Addo 100-miler, it's Mac, and this isn't in the order in which they happen. Addo, it's Mac, it's Ultra Trail Drakensberg, and it's Karkloof. Rihanna is the only woman of the 5 contenders.
That's amazing. I mean, just to complete one 100-miler race in a year is something phenomenal. And you have athletes doing 4 in a year.
Absolutely, and the particularly challenging thing about Umuk is that the first 3 of those 4 are very closely timed. I see Linda Kapendeza there on the screen.
Looking in a very jovial
They're
mood
very
there.
closely timed because Addo is in March, early March, late Feb, early early March, and soon after that, in April is Ultra Trail Drakensberg, and then just a few weeks later in Well, we're now 2 hours and 12 minutes into the race, and the runners, almost all of the runners are through our first checkpoint here. So we're going to cross over to Andrew Booth, who's the race director of KZN Trail Running. He's the man behind KZN Trail Running and the Karkloof Trail Series. So good to have you here in the studio.
Yeah, I know, it's great to be in the studio. Pop onto this side of things, having been on that side for most
Absolutely.
of the
This has been your baby now for 5 years, this particular race, and you've seen it grow, and you've fed it, and it has grown, and it's grown into a fantastic event. But that has come with challenges and logistical challenges and lessons you've learned over those 5 years. Tell us about year one and how things have changed and evolved.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember taking year one on, Linda, and knowing that it's by far the biggest thing we're taking on, and briefing the crew accordingly and saying, guys, this is it. If we do well here and we get this right, and people give us good feedback and people talk about it, it'll change the trajectory of what we're doing here. And it did. It really did. Like after that first year, even though we got a lot of things wrong, because it was our first one we were doing, the big building blocks were there, and everyone had a good time, bar one or two slip-ups, and yeah, I believe the first event is so important because it sets the tone, and it did. It was a community event straight up. The thing we got worse, the thing we did the worst was media, and here we sit in a world-class live studio, and yet we completely hashed year one media, but we were held together by the crowd who were engaging with the race, who were moving from aid station to aid station, who were telling the story themselves on their social media platforms in amongst their WhatsApp groups. So no one actually ever felt like we had done a bad job, because everyone was informed by the race by other people following it.
Right.
But obviously that's something we've taken to a new level, and it is a big challenge, because you've got 50 miles which you've got to cover, because it's an out and back. So fortunately not the full 100, but to be able to have everything in all of these checkpoints timeously, it's the biggest challenge. Eh?
It is. Connectivity remains a big challenge. It's a challenge in South Africa, and it's an additional challenge being trail related, because by its very nature, trail races are out there in remote areas. So, how are you achieving that successfully?
Yeah, we do use normal comms, obviously, but we can't rely on them completely. So we bring in things like digital handsets and stuff, so we can talk to one another across the course, because that's the most important thing at the end of the day, is that we can communicate with our crews. And so in those dead spots, these really they're digital, so they almost don't have a dead spot. They don't, and they operate off a repeater on the top of Mount Gilboa. So they're our backup. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, you brief your crew and you get everyone up to speed as much as you can, and then you throw it down the alley, so to speak. You can't hold on to it until and then try and control it.
Yeah.
You got to build and build and build and build. But once the race starts, you can't control. You've got to. Well, I mean, obviously, you have to ride with it. You have to control to a point, because if something major happens, then we need those certainties. But if you try overboard and you try and make sure that everything's perfect, and you don't just let your teams on the ground get on with it, then you're fighting an uphill battle. So yeah, I've got a lot of trust out on the people all out there on the course this evening.
You've got a great team. And this year, of course, with this very live broadcast, it's the first of its kind. It's the first time that that anybody's done this in South Africa. I know that in trail, and I know that it's modelled very much on the Western States 100 model, and it's working really well.
Yeah, no, it is, especially these times. I mean, I said it in the briefing that it's the first time in ages that I feel like the crowd has just come together and just got on with things. And of course, there's our COVID protocols in place, but maybe we've become used enough to them that they don't bother us as much as they used to. And just to fill this venue with people, to create a vibe like that. It's really special.
It's another great thing about this year. I know last year as well you were based at this venue, but this year obviously you can have more people, more spectators. It's family friendly. It's camping friendly. It's you as Karkloof have this venue, whereas previously the first 3 races you were more in Howick, and obviously it came with its limitations parking wise, etc. But this with its space is
it works
unlimited.
perfectly. And you know the story behind it is that we planned year 1 to start and finish the race from here as an out and back, and about 4 months before they realized they had a double booking for a wedding, so we were second in line. We booked after the wedding, but we had 4 months still to plan, so we went back to the drawing board and decided actually starting the race in town would be pretty cool, and yard 41 was perfect, and we thought we had done the right thing, and the first 3 years went off well. We knew that the size of the venue might always challenge us at yard 41, but we still felt like that was the right sequence of events, and maybe it was to get the race started, but then the irony of coming back here and actually discovering that it actually is a better venue, especially as the race grows, and go back to where we started. But it's not what we thought along the way. We thought when we were in town that was a great place to be until we came here. And I think one of the most special things was that when everyone arrived to register, they were all here. It wasn't like you arrived to register and then went to your accommodation or then went to the campsite. And so it wasn't disjunct. It brought everything together. Right. And I think that's something that we try at every event at KZN Trail Running, is to not split it apart. And COVID's kind of forced us to split things a bit because you don't want everyone
congregating.
Exactly. But when you do bring a race together like that and everyone's energy together, that's when the magic happens. And
well, the vibe here was fantastic today, I must say, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow's vibe with the 50.
The marathon as well coming in.
I think a lot of people are keen to hear about, with the slight change of race start and finish venue, that I presume doesn't change the distance of the race. The route distance.
A couple of our back markers coming
through.
Our
last 2 back markers, possibly last 2 back markers coming through, looking very cheerful.
Walking in it.
Does the course distance remain the same or as close to it as possible? And the vertical gain over the course.
Yeah, so we paid some attention to that when redesigning, and very similar, very, very similar. So we aim for that 100 miles on the dot, maybe just a bit further, because you don't want to be short.
No, I don't want to be short.
So we aim for that, and we've measured it out in segments, but this will be the first time someone runs it all in one go. And nowadays we can only measure with GPS. We can't measure with anything more accurate. And there's a 10% differential there when you actually look at all the different units. So it's as accurate as we can get it.
And you can still therefore compare records.
Yeah, I think you'll always have kind of old course records and that sort of stuff. I think the first 10 miles went a lot quicker than the first 10 miles of the previous course.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily always fair to compare course on course.
Or it could be the front 3 runners were panicked by each other.
It could well be. But I also think that we haven't seen nearly what's possible on the Karkloof 100 miler from the world's best 100-mile runners.
Yes.
We're yet to see that. Not to take anything away from any of the winners to date, but I believe it's a course that can be run much closer to the 15-hour mark, and we're still sitting just over 17.
Yeah.
So there's a good 2 hours out there to be taken.
Interesting.
On a good year.
And I wonder if that'll be taken by a South African runner or in the future when hopefully COVID eases up a bit and international runners flock, because they will. I wonder if there'll be an international name
who finally puts it there.
Yes,
Hey?
yes.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a lot of good 100-mile runners out there. Obviously, for South Africa, Ryan Sands pops up into everyone's heads very
Sure.
quickly, and he's the kind of runner who would run a 15 here if he had his day. Someone who has that potential. But yeah, it would be great to draw someone from Europe or America or the East or Australia and give it a real crack and see where they came out and set a new mark, because we want to. I think once someone's like the 4-minute mile, once someone's broken it and starts going that fast, everyone will be like, oh, okay. And you've seen that in the 100-mile scene around the world, how much quicker it's got in the last 5 years.
Sure. So maybe Jim Walmsley.
Hey, Jim, I believe he's after Comrades first.
Yes, Comrades first, then Karkloof. But I think Karkloof first, then Comrades.
Yeah, you can use it as a warm-up.
Ah, yes, indeed.
But cool, yeah, Linda, it's great to be on this side of the conversation for a while. You can see a bit of live stuff coming out there. I'm not sure who's up front. I believe it was Kennedy, but looking on the app here for a couple of updates.
And also, I'd like to know I'm interested to see what I think that's Joe we're seeing there.
It does look like Joe, yeah. First lady.
How the front runners are spacing out.
Yeah, whether there's any gaps there. We'll get some more information that should come off.
They'll soon be at Rockwood.
At Rockwood, yeah. So we at what? They've been up 2:20.
Obviously, communications will always be somewhat challenging from time to time.
Yeah, they will be, but they start to, and there's sometimes in a race like this a few things to be smoothened out. I can see on the app there 1 or 2 things that are just being adjusted for the timing. So yeah, there's always some smoothing to do in the early phases, but hopefully we get it all nice and smooth and yeah, bring it out at the end of the day with a full field. Let's see how many we get home. That's always the question.
Well, yes, and I'm interested to see what tomorrow's heat, the predicted temperatures tomorrow do to the runners.
Yeah, that's going to play properly.
And also, we're coming out of winter. We haven't trained in summer temperatures. So, well, in Cape Town, we're coming out of winter. You guys are already in summer.
We've had quite a cool year so far, so that is true. We haven't had to deal with too much heat. I think definitely is going to play a role. But what I do like is that it's cooling off in the evenings. You know, we've had some years, particularly we always talk about the 2019 year, where at night it even seemed to stay quite warm, and guys are coming into the first aid station and just pouring water over themselves. As opposed to, now it's cooled off quite nicely. You're not going to have to struggle with heat. First time you're going to probably have to start thinking about it is like maybe 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. As we start to play a role.
Suns up properly.
Yeah. But no, all good.
Well, we saw some of the 8 stations there, 5 along the route, with some other ones that are in between, Linda, but we say 5. It is a lot more than 5 because it's an out and back course, so the 100-mile athletes will actually have 10 of them altogether. But where we're based here at the Karkloof Country Club, we've got the first 8 station here, which the runners came through at the 15-kilometer mark, manned by the pirates, dressed as pirates from Pirate Road Runners. And we've got a short little video request of this first 8 station where we are here based at the Karkloof Country Club. Well, beautiful venue where we are here, situated at the Karkloof Country Club, and I can't remember, Linda, when last I actually stepped in a tent. So I'm actually looking forward to. It's going to be chilly, but I'm looking forward to the whole tent village tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great vibe here. We've got a lot of the family and friends of the 100 milers, and then of course there's many of tomorrow's 50-mile runners staying here and their family and friends. So it's going to be good. I'm interested to see what time everybody wakes up, of course, because the 50-miler starts at 6 a.m. And
we'll be up very early. We will be back live at 5:30 tomorrow morning.
An early start. But the good thing is the coffee is good, so that's good fuel for us. But the temperature is very cool, and actually Andrew was just saying to me just now, the race director, that in previous years it's been warm. It's been quite warm at night, and runners have come into the first aid station and poured water over themselves. Whereas tonight is relatively cool, but surely in strong contrast to what it'll be like tomorrow once the sun's up mid-morning. The temperatures have restored, and they're going to get to a good 30-32 degrees tomorrow. So that'll certainly take its toll on the runners.
Yeah, not only the 32 degrees, but the humidity that comes with it, being in Kwa-Zulu Natal. So hopefully the runners, they're well experienced. They'll be definitely hydrating themselves properly, fueling the correct way. We've spoken a lot about fueling tonight. Integral part of not only ultra distance running, but trail running in specific, because I mean, when you run a Comrades marathon, you get water tables every 1.5-2 kilometers, but as we mentioned earlier, it's every 10 miles until you see the next aid station.
That's right, yeah. And it's so important over this distance as well to monitor your fueling, liquid and solid, and eat when you eat regardless of whether you want it or not, because you've got to think now for later. You've always got to be thinking for later, and particularly with heat like they're going to experience tomorrow, the 50-mile runners and the 100-mile runners, they're going to be losing a lot of salts through sweat, and they're going to need to replenish in advance of needing it.
And it is quite an art to it as well, because as much as you don't want to be dehydrated, there's even worse off consequences if you overhydrate.
Hyponatremia, indeed. And the tricky thing is the symptoms are the same. So there have often been cases where a medic, for example, might misinterpret the symptoms and put you on a drip thinking that you're dehydrated, and actually you're overhydrated. And it can be a killer. Yeah.
Well, just over 2 hours and 35 minutes into the 2021 Karkloof Trail Series. Your take on it so far, Linda? We saw the front runners come through here really quickly. Guys like Andrew Erasmus, who have been twice on the podium before, looking a lot more gentle and relaxed coming through. In the ladies' race, we saw Joe Kepler 6 minutes ahead of a trio of ladies who came in second, third, fourth, which included Trish Eckstein in there. Your take on the race so far?
Well, yeah, it was interesting looking at the visible stress level of the front three guys who came in significantly ahead, at least a couple of minutes ahead of Andrew. They looked quite stressed, really, by each other. Were certainly very aware of each other, and they they raced out. Whereas Andrew trotted quite comfortably after I wouldn't say taking his time, but comfortably replenishing his stocks and going through the aid station and trotting off. He looked very in control and quite comfortable and quite at ease with where he was as chase pack.
And I think definitely as we go to sleep tonight, obviously with the 11 o'clock curfew, when we do return to studio in the morning at 5:30, I think things are going to look a lot different to how we left it tonight.
Indeed. Absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, we live on air.
And we have, I think, coming through here, we have one of the. That's Linda. That's Linda Kapembeza coming through.
She went through quite quickly there in the aid station.
In fact, she just passed. She didn't replenish. She's going for a rest break. And we haven't seen the sweep. There's still, so Linda is presumably not the back runner. Very early days, and much can happen. This is Linda's first 100 miler.
Wow.
She did a 100k circuit race about a month ago in preparation for this, and achieved that. So she's quite nervous about this 100 miles, but she'll do it. I think she'll do it.
Yeah, well, she's got until Sunday morning, the cut-off, Linda?
36 hours.
36 hours.
Yes.
I take my hat off to them. You know,
It's a long
to
time
start
away.
on Friday night and finish on Sunday morning.
That's
an amazing achievement. You also coach not only elite athletes, but athletes from the middle of the pack right to the back. You've got some athletes that were also looking to be finishing by Sunday morning.
Yes. One particular athlete has a physical challenge, and he will be the happiest man to achieve his first ever 100 miler. So yes, I've got runners spanning the full field, indeed.
And in the 50 miler as well tomorrow?
I have 2 runners in the 50 miler, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the 50 miler is going to be quite an interesting one tomorrow, with a lot of the comrades road athletes taking part. So I think we're going to see some challenging things there. But we've been talking about some of the aid stations, and let's take you on another little video intro into the Rockwood aid station.
All right, great. Evening, everyone. It's 11:15, and we've got probably, I think, 12 runners still to come through the first aid station for the night. So we're slowly winding down our live broadcast here, and I thought what I would do is just give you a run through of the route of what everyone's going through currently, and we'll go through tomorrow when the sun comes up. So essentially, when you look at the video play, we started at the country club. We did a 16k loop across what we call the milk trails, and then down across the Karkloof River, down to the falls, and then back through some beautiful forestry areas up to the country club again. You'll be able to see the graphic now running through. There's a little bit of a climb at the beginning, and then they drop right down onto the river, and then make their way back up through the forestry area. It's pretty runnable and quick trails. We saw that by the times that the guys came through. After that, we go out west up on what we're calling the Honey Loop. It's not a loop this time, but they follow the Karkloof River and get to the higher point of the route, and start making their way north down to the Rockwood Aid Station, the Valley Fjords, across some beautiful farmlands, some new areas. This is a new part of the course that we put in, and so the runners don't have to go on the district road. They can now go on the single track trails. After that, from Rockwood, they head across the plateaus and into Bushwillow Aid Station. Really runnable part. One big climb, biggest climb of the day, and into Bushwillow. After Bushwillow, we're on the valley floor from here all the way to pretty much to Mbona. Some lovely running. If you run through Cranes, you run on some of those trails, and then through some really well-grown plantations. And then one big climb up to the Mbona Gate, which is our fourth aid station. And you'll see on the graphic now, after a bit of winding through the forest, there's a little bit of a bump up to Mbona Gate. It's a little bit of a sting in the tail, but pretty cool. After that, the runners get to go into Mbona Nature Reserve, which is the most magnificent single track grass trails running all around dams and trout lakes and through some indigenous forest, through this beautiful housing estate. And they pop out the other side and make their way into a very well-renowned farm called Benvie, who are renowned for their abattoirum and their gardens called the Benvie Gardens. And it's there where they turn, and they start running back home, and they do it all in reverse. And that gives you a bit of an idea around what the guys are going through. I think everyone's pretty much between Karkloof Country Club and Rockwood Aid Station. We'll get an update on the app in due course. And we've got another runner going out here. Linda's heading out on her loop, which is pretty cool. And I think, guys, that is pretty much going to be our wrap for this evening. Thank you for joining us. It's been groundbreaking, to say the least. It's been fantastic to be able to follow the runners on some of the course. Tomorrow's going to be really exciting. We're going to have really good visuals. We'll be able to see the runners. We'll have lots of camera on route, and the action will certainly hot up, in particular at the start of the 50 miler. In particular, once the 50 miler in the race for about the first 6 Ks, we don't have stealth signals, we won't see them, but then they'll pop out and we'll be able to follow them. There's some really exciting runners running that, and we'll see the 100 milers as they head into the second day, and the sun comes up for them. So join us tomorrow morning from 5:30 in the morning. We'll be crossing to myself. I'll be starting the 50 milers at Benvie. And Linda and Cuan, thank you so much for the great job you guys have done. They've gone off to rest, and we will see you guys 5:30 tomorrow morning, same place. Can't wait for it. Take it easy, and thanks for joining us. Over and out from the Karkloof Country Club.